Imagine a substance so powerful that once governments used it, they could never stop. A substance that eased pain instantly, postponed consequences, and made impossible promises seem affordable. Now imagine that substance wasn't a drug, but money. Here's the mystery. If printing money creates inflation, debt, and inequality, why do governments keep doing it? Why do markets panic when it slows down and celebrate when it resumes? And most importantly, when did money printing stop being an emergency tool and become a permanent addiction? To understand how infinite money printing became the world's quiet addiction, we need to trace the cause and effect chain, from necessity to temptation to dependence, and finally to a system that can no longer function without it. For most of history, money was difficult to create. Gold had to be mined. Silver had to be refined. Even paper money was constrained by reserves and convertibility. This scarcity imposed discipline. Governments had to choose between wars and welfare, between spending and stability, between today and tomorrow. Painful trade-offs existed, and they mattered. But as economies grew more complex, so did the desire to smooth out cycles, prevent crashes, and maintain social order. That desire gave rise to central banking institutions, designed to manage money rather than merely guard it. At first, the power was limited. Then came the justifications. Then came the exceptions. An addiction always begins with an exception. The first major dose of money printing came during war. World War I shattered the old monetary order. Countries abandoned gold standards to fund survival. Printing money was framed as temporary and necessary evil. After the war, inflation devastated savings. But governments learned a crucial lesson. Printing money worked, at least in the short term. It paid soldiers. It funded reconstruction. It delayed collapse. And once a tool proves effective during crisis, it never stays confined to emergencies. The Great Depression deepened the reliance. Mass unemployment, bank failures, and social unrest terrified governments. Traditional restraint failed to stop the collapse, so intervention replaced discipline. Keynesian economics rose to prominence, arguing that governments should spend aggressively during downturns, even if it meant creating money. This idea changed everything. Money printing was no longer a last resort. It became a solution. Central banks gained unprecedented power to inject liquidity, lower interest rates, and stabilize markets. Each intervention seemed to justify the next. And just like with addiction, tolerance began to build. The true turning point came quietly. In 1971, the United States ended the dollar's convertibility into gold. This decision severed money from physical reality. From that moment on, money could be created without limit. No gold, no natural break, no external discipline. Governments didn't need to raise taxes to spend more. They didn't need to justify borrowing the same way. They could print. At first, the effects were subtle. Then they compounded. And once markets adjusted to unlimited liquidity, there was no going back. Here's how the addiction took hold. Every time a crisis hit, central banks printed money to soften the blow. Markets recovered faster than before. Politicians avoided backlash. But each cycle required more money than the last. Just like a drug, the initial dose stopped working, so the dosage increased. Interest rates fell lower, asset purchases grew larger, balance sheets expanded. By the 2000s, entire economies were structured around cheap money. Debt stopped being dangerous, it became necessary. The 2008 financial crisis was the moment addiction became undeniable. Banks collapsed under mountains of leverage. Credit froze. The global system teetered on the edge. The response? Trillions printed. Quantitative easing, once unthinkable, became standard policy. Central banks bought government bonds, corporate debt, even mortgage securities. Markets recovered, but the patient never detoxed. Instead of reducing dependence, the system internalized it. Money printing wasn't reversed. It was normalized. After 2008, something unprecedented happened. Markets stopped responding to fundamentals. They responded to central bank announcements. Good news meant money printing would stop, so markets fell. Bad news meant stimulus, so markets rose. Reality inverted. Pain became bullish. Stability became dangerous. This was addiction logic. The system no longer functioned without constant injections of liquidity. Then came the pandemic. Governments shut down economies and compensated by printing money at historic speed. Trillions appeared in months. The justification was emergency. The result was permanent expansion. Asset prices exploded. Inflation surged. Savings eroded. But withdrawal wasn't possible, because by then, every major institution depended on cheap money to survive. The side effects are everywhere. Inflation that punishes savers, asset bubbles that reward speculation. Inequality, driven by proximity to money creation, debt levels that can never be repaid. Yet the system persists because stopping would cause withdrawal symptoms. Higher interest rates trigger crashes. Lower rates fuel bubbles. There is no painless option. It's addiction. Every proposed fix avoids the core issue. Raise rates. Recessions follow. Lower rates. Inflation rises. Cut spending. Political backlash. Raise taxes. Capital flees. The real fix would require reducing reliance on printed money and accepting short-term pain. No one wants to prescribe that, so instead, new frameworks are introduced. Inflation, targeting yield curve control, digital currencies, none of these reduce addiction. They manage it, across countries and decades. The pattern is identical. Crisis gives money printing, gives temporary relief, gives greater dependence. Japan did it first. The US scaled it. Europe institutionalized it. Emerging markets copied it. It's different currencies, same addiction. Even when inflation spikes, printing resumes because stopping threatens collapse. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Infinite money printing didn't happen because leaders were stupid. It happened because the system evolved to require it. Debt-based economies cannot survive without expanding money supply. Political systems cannot tolerate austerity. Financial markets cannot function without liquidity. So the addiction isn't moral, it's structural. In the process, money lost its meaning. It no longer measures value. It manipulates behavior. Saving is discouraged. Speculation is rewarded. Time preference shifts toward the present. The future is sacrificed to stabilize today. Money printing started as an emergency tool and became a permanent dependency. The costs are delayed, uneven, and hidden, but unavoidable. There is no painless exit from addiction, only different forms of pain. Here's the warning. Systems addicted to short-term relief eventually face long-term consequences. And here's the open-ended thought. What happens when the next crisis demands even more money, but belief finally runs out? That question has no easy answer. If this helped you see the system more clearly, subscribe, because understanding addiction is the first step toward recognizing what comes after it.